Fallout! We've seen all of it, have you?
Brag.
If you haven't, do that and
Look
then
away
come
now
back to
if
this.
you haven't seen the entire first
video.
season of the Fallout.
Put your fingers in your ears.
That's
say
right.
la 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 la.
We said we'd do it, and we always follow through on our promises when we say that on Outside Xbox, because here we are talking about the Fallout series in its entirety, full spoilers, all the mysteries that we still have, the things that we want revealed, the questions we have, the secrets we want answered. This is what we're talking about in this video, and there's loads of them, maybe 8.
There you are, you little killer.
So they've already confirmed there is going to be a second season of the
Oh,
Fallout
yeah.
show, so we can start speculating now about
Wildly
what is going to be in
speculating.
it. So, first of all, first thing that I thought they were definitely going to visit in this series, but they didn't, is how we go from Cooper Howard, the man,
Yes.
riding a horse.
The myth, the legend.
Yeah, riding a horse out of a birthday party with his daughter away
Yeah.
from an atomic explosion, to 200 years later, the ghoul is kicking about the wasteland, shooting folks with a big exploding shotgun. So what happened after he got away? Where's his daughter? I mean, they sort of bring up that question in the finale when he asks Hank, where's my family? That's interesting. So he doesn't know. So presumably at some point between knowing where his daughter is on horse in front of me,
To losing daughter.
to losing daughter. Yes, exactly.
I will say, up until that point in the final episode, I just assumed his daughter had tragically died at some point, maybe in the initial,
Yeah, it's quite rare to
bombs
become a ghoul, I
dropping.
think, in the
Right, well,
lore of Fallout.
how does one survive from 2077, I want to say,
Yeah.
to the era of like the Fallout Wasteland? And it's by becoming a ghoul
Yep.
who lives, forever,
Mm-hmm.
or being frozen.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the two ways. So the kid's been frozen, or she's a tiny little adorable
Tiny ghoul. Aw.
ghoul. Mrs. Walton Goggins,
Barb.
sorry, Barb,
Yeah.
was a Vault-Tec employee, so could easily be frozen. I mean, that was the sort of the plan, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the discussions they have during the series are about what's best for the family with the impending war. So you'd assume that Barb, as a Vault-Tec exec, would have put preparations in place and would be well aware of what's going on and would have put her daughter's sort of survival like first and foremost. It may be that both Barb and her daughter are cryogenically frozen somewhere. They could,
Hence the question, where's my family?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
It suggests he knows they still exist, basically.
the other question you raised before we shot this was, obviously, Cooper Howard overhears some pretty revealing, pretty incriminating things. When
Yes.
I
he's
love that
spying
scene, by the way.
on-
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a meeting of two of the main characters of the thing, but he's like massively distracted because he's also listening in on this meeting.
He's
It's so good.
realizing his wife is
Yeah.
insane.
He's like,
I also liked it as an origin for the social experiment quality of the vaults, because she basically goes, now we've all got theories
Yeah.
about humankind, human nature. Everyone's gonna have a handful of vaults to do whatever the hell you want with, no questions asked. Go nuts, everybody.
And everyone around the table is like,
Oh, yeah.
nice. Yeah. No, we have been wanting to do this, actually.
Yeah.
Now that you mention
Finally, but
That's what bored rich people do, I think, probably.
Yeah.
the question you were asking is that, like, after that moment, that revealing moment, what happens?
it. Yeah. Well, they say.
Obviously, they get divorced, right?
Yeah, they
because
say at the
in the first
party-
episode, they're like alimony, right?
Yeah.
He's paying
He's
alimony.
like, why is he doing
to
this
his
party?
wife.
And he's like, what else?
But like,
Alimony.
you'd think
So-
after hearing that thing where your wife's like, why don't we just drop the bomb and kill lots of people?
Yeah.
More happens than just a divorce. So do you think that de-escalates, or he tries to blow the whistle on Vault-Tec and is ignored, or he doesn't because he doesn't want to, like, I don't know, drop his wife in it?
Well, the point you were making is the point when the bombs drop, he is literally with his daughter. You
Yeah,
know?
so
So,
it seems
their
like-
relationship must function on some very basic level.
But it also
that
s-
he's still seeing his daughter, and she hasn't been spirited away to a
Yeah,
to a
but
vault.
if Vault-Tec are the ones dropping the bombs, presumably, which they say they are in the show, but I'm not sure if that can be the case unless his wife has lost her position in the intervening time, because there's no way she would not have her daughter with her when that happened if she knew when it was going to happen.
Well, I think that actually rolls us into one of the other questions, one of the mysteries we hope they explore in Fallout Season 2, and that is, who drops the bombs? Where do they drop the bomb? Does Voltec actually drop the bomb, or do they just have the intention to do it? Because Barb says, I just can't remember the wording exactly, but she's like,
We'll do it ourselves.
We should do it. We
Yeah.
should drop the bomb ourselves. But can that be the case when, as you say, they're clearly taken by surprise?
Yeah.
Hence, Barb's daughter is just running loose at a pool party when the bombs fall.
Todd Howard, who presumably knows about this stuff,
Mr.
has said
Fallout,
that the show...
Executive producer Todd Howard in this show.
EP, climbing that ladder.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He said that the show is canonical with
Yes.
the Fallout
Okay.
universe. And in the Fallout universe, it's kind of explicitly said that Voltec weren't ready for it. There's all sorts of Voltec employees who didn't get a call, didn't make it to Vaults in times.
There's apparently a line in New Vegas where Mr. House says that they were taken by surprise by 20 hours.
That's why he doesn't have the platinum chip, Mr. House. If you know your New Vegas lore, like the whole point is he needs this platinum chip for his Securitrons and Servbots and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have it in his possession because he wasn't expecting the bombs to fall when they did.
Okay.
So it's probable, and again, I hope this is explored in season 2, and the fact that it's season 2 is going to be in New Vegas, essentially, or at least partly in New Vegas, suggests it will be explored a bit more, the relationship with Mr. House and stuff. But I think it suggests that Voltec had a plan to drop a bomb. I don't think Voltec were talking about dropping a bomb on US soil. I think they were talking about like instigating the war, you know, like, as a corporate, entity, dropping the bomb, but it looking like it was a US
To provoke America's enemies.
Yeah, to provoke America's enemies to then invade, right? And I would suggest the most likely thing, if it's going to stick with the lore, as Todd Howard said, is that they were planning on doing that, but then the sort of enemies took them by surprise by dropping the bombs first.
So they would have. They really wanted to. They had no
qualms,
objections about nuking the United States or whoever. But they didn't get around to it because someone beat them to it.
Yeah, and I think it's a good indicator of how sort of mercenary and unfeeling they are that they were even considering it.
Yes,
and I think that's the thing that makes Barb really interesting as a character, in that her relationship with Cooper Howard is, he is successful in his own right, but she is more successful. She's the one who's getting him the job as the spokesperson for the
cowboy.
thing. Yeah. And she's making these calls that have far-reaching consequences.
But what do you think the conversation they had when they went home that evening and had dinner? And she's like, I didn't literally mean drop the bomb. It was an idiom. It was like a turn of phrase. Let's drop the bomb.
Yeah, I want to see those sorts of conversations, and I hope. I would have thought, if they're going to follow the same sort of format in the season 2, there will be continued flashbacks, and we'll see more of that.
Yeah.
It's probably, I guess, if you were planning it, you'd want to have the flashbacks running up, and so that when you finally end your sort of show,
everything is revealed.
Everything's matched up, and it's you're right at the point where
Oh yeah, that's true. So they'll maybe want to maintain even more mysteries or create new mysteries.
I don't know if you watched Westworld, but it's exactly what he did with Ed Harris's character, the Man in Black in Westworld. Was they showed his entire story in flashback throughout.
Yes, no, I remember. Yeah.
The first couple of seasons.
Yeah, that could be it. That could be it for Cooper Howard.
I mean, it's a great device, and also it's I love all the stuff in the post-apocalypse and stuff, but actually, the really meaty bits of the lore are the stuff that happens pre-war, and it's the stuff we haven't seen in the games really very much. I mean, barring sort of that very small area of Fallout 4's intro, it's really interesting to see what the politics were of the time, and how Voltec held their position, and what they we all want to know what they were planning with all these different vaults and stuff. And so I think the flashback stuff is going to be part of season 2, I would assume. And I hope there's more. Cooper and Barb arguing about the morals of dropping bombs.
Maybe Cooper didn't say anything. Maybe he's.
I mean, it's clear they're divorced, and his career has hit the skids as well. Which I think is going to be as a result of him being outed as a communist, right?
Right.
Because communist witch hunts and
McCarthyism
and all that stuff. So I think probably that's going to be a side effect of him confronting his wife. It's they get divorced and she outs him as a pinko.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, is it suggested, at least mildly implied during the first season, that his career's sort of on a downturn anyway? Like, there's the bit where he's filming the film and he's like, I don't kill people. He's like, yeah, but the people just want to see more of this sort of thing.
I think that's more of a sort of heavy-handed metaphor as to the way the country's going.
Right.
It's like, oh, you got to kill this commie. Like,
Yeah, I
And
guess
it,
so,
and it establishes his pre-Ghoul character as being like non-violent, perhaps, like a kind of a little bit more thoughtful.
But yeah, when people are coming up to him going, I loved it when you shot that communist right in his commie face and stuff. It's like, okay, people are going this way, getting really jingoistic with it.
But he has enough fans. Like Carl McLachlan's Hank is like,
Yeah.
I love you so much. Be our spokescowboy.
Yeah, I guess I was just curious. And again, with the sort of taking the Vault Tech job, it's like a very different job from being a movie star.
Yeah, but it is his wife's company.
Yeah.
And Vault-Tec is like the
Biggest company,
multi-million dollar
It's like
giant
Amazon, and
conglomerate
Walton
to work
Goggins
for.
has taken a job from Amazon.
It's true, yeah.
Well, now that is a very small drop in a very, very large bucket of drugs.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really interesting to explore that stuff. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if like they pace the flashbacks out so that when we get to the final season of Fallout and it's getting to the final episode, it like literally comes up to the bit, I guess, although, to be honest, we want to know a little after what happened when those first bombs drop and he rides off on the
Yeah,
horse.
because he's on a horse. What happened to that horse? I need to know.
You know what could happen?
That's my question.
Horse ghoul.
Okay, if we want to make
Horse's
speculate.
fault.
Okay, Andy's bet is the horse fault. I would like to place an outside bet on somehow Walton Goggins' daughter has aged somewhat. So rather than adding a child character to the show, you're adding another young adult character to the show.
Right.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, like she was unfrozen
10 years
ago.
prior,
Yeah,
now
yeah,
she's a
and she's living in a
teenager
vault
or
and she has
something
no
like
idea
that.
who she
That
is.
is always a really fun twist. And Fallout 4 spoilers, that is one of the big twists in Fallout 4, is when the old man that you've been talking to is your son.
Yeah.
So it's like...
It could happen.
Yeah, it's
Or
something
she
you're
could be an
not
old
expecting.
lady, but
Yeah,
Walton
exactly that.
Goggins' daughter could now be an old lady in the wasteland or
Someone
something.
not being the age you expect them to
Yeah.
and it being a surprise is a very cool
Good,
twist.
good.
So I could see them doing that for sure.
All right, let's dial up another mystery on the
Mystery
iPad
phone.
of mysteries.
The mystery phone.
Okay, next up we have what is Moldaver's deal?
What's her whole deal?
When was she defrosted? How did she get frozen? Why is she keeping Lucy's mum there?
That's
Did
the
she
weirdest
get
bit.
frozen? Like,
That's the thing. Did she
I
get
mean,
frozen?
she's not a ghoul, is she? Unless,
Well,
yeah,
unless there's a...
Well, is she though?
Yeah.
Is she a ghoul though? Because I mean,
she's still got a nose.
yeah, but we're going to get into. I think we're going to get
We'll
into
get
this
into
again
ghoul stuff,
later.
yeah.
But there's some stuff with the snake oil salesman that maybe there's a new kind of ghoul.
Yeah,
one that doesn't.
One that has a nose.
has a nose. Yeah, I mean, probably most likely it is that she got frozen.
Yeah.
She snuck into a
Well, my-
Vault-Tec freezing facility.
My initial thought was that her energy company was
Right.
bought by Vault-Tec.
Indeed.
So it could be that she is like an ancillary employee of Vault-Tec.
And as one of her perks, she gets healthcare, dental, cryogenic freezing in the case of a nuclear war.
Well, that's the thing. I was like, is she in Vault 31? But then that's just like Bud's. Bud's followers.
Middle managers, yeah.
I think what's more likely is that she's in an enclave freezing
Interesting.
thing
and
because
yes, because the Enclave have the cold fusion technology.
it's the scientist who at the start hides the thing in his head. He is an enclave scientist who
Yes.
escapes from an enclave
That makes a lot of sense.
an enclave facility.
Sure.
So I don't know if you noticed as well when they're doing the at the end credits, they have all the New Vegas signs and stuff. There's one that advertises cryo suites available at one
Right.
of the casinos there. So
Interesting.
it's
There's lots of places she could have been frozen other than
Yeah.
as Bud's.
I mean Vault
scheme.
111 we know was developed to test cryogenic freezing as well. That's the
Sure.
the point of Vault 111.
Oh, right. But where's Vault 111?
That's in Boston. So,
Okay. It's a long
yeah.
way to go.
Yeah.
But still, lots of ways for her to not be a ghoul and be alive because she was frozen
Yeah.
somewhere other than the Bud's Vault-Tec vault. So that's her how is she alive sort of deal, we suspect.
Probably, yeah.
Probably. But it doesn't mean she wasn't unfrozen that long ago. She doesn't look that
doesn't look much older.
than
No.
in the 2017.
It's funny
sort of era.
how in this, 200 years later, how many people from this very specific period of time just before the war are knocking around and chatting to each other and meeting up, For whatever reason, either they were frozen, either they were a brain on a tiny Roomba, or they're, like a ghoul.
Another question is why has she got Lucy's mum there, all ghouled?
Right.
It's difficult to know. Maybe they were like best friends, and she can't let it go. Well, yeah. I mean,
They were just roommates.
yeah.
People said.
Um,
I think it's clear they were lovers.
yeah.
And that's why she's got her at the dinner table.
Yeah.
I mean, why else?
Is she like
And that's why
chained
Hank got
up?
so angry. Yeah, she's chained up
restrained?
to stop
like,
her being all
yeah,
feral.
yeah, and she's got the necklace that's kind of like
Yeah.
merged with her
Yeah.
flesh now. So Lucy can. I think we should all be wearing some sort of identifiable jewelry. So in the wasteland, when people find us, they can be like, "Oh, that was Jane." She always
Mine's a
wore
grey
that."
hoodie. Yeah, I'll be wearing a grey hoodie, and you'll know it's me.
Right, oh,
as I'm
that's-
like,
That's cool, Mike,
Yeah,
wearing
exactly.
the unmistakable hoodie
Yeah,
of
exactly.
a Mike. Yeah.
Um,
But we were saying it could just be, like convenient storytelling. You need Lucy to understand that her mother is alive and has been left to become a ghoul by her heartless father. Or could it be that Moldava has, I don't know, some sort of specific interest in ghouls? Or that she used to be friends with Lucy's mum. If so, why keep her there though? Just like sentimental reasons,
Or maybe just she knew she was going to go after Hank. She's trying to get hold of Hank specifically.
Leverage.
Maybe she's like it's leverage.
Yeah,
being
yeah.
able to maybe she was like, oh, I could appeal to his look at what you did.
It could be that.
I think
Yeah.
probably. I mean, that seems to imply that she has tender feelings for this ghoul, this Lucy's mum, but also the fact that she marches into her vault with a band of raiders and basically throws Lucy to the raiders, like
Yeah.
letting one of them take her off.
Oh,
for,
yeah.
who knows what. Probably wouldn't do that if you. She was like, "Oh, you look like your mother," so presumably she recognised.
Yeah, she didn't say that in like a nice way, did she? She said it in a
No.
sort
Yeah.
of like mildly threatening way.
But also, you wouldn't let someone just take the daughter of your friend off to like.
Well, maybe you're right then.
do whatever.
It's not sentimental
leverage,
reasons.
yeah.
It's more just like I need to have you around so that I can, I don't know,
undermine
convince-
Hank.
Yeah, convince Carl McLachlan to work with me or Lucy to betray Carl McLachlan.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, we don't get a lot of stuff resolved with Moldava, and it's going to have to be resolved in the sort of pre-war stuff rather than the obviously she's in pretty bad shape at the end of the
Yes.
at the end of the series. So the only way we're going to find out more about her is in the pre-war stuff. But I hope she's still there. I think it would be weird to leave that thread
Yeah.
unresolved.
I mean, I presume we'll see, because, all the people in Vault 4 basically worshipping her as the, what do they call her, the Burning Mother or something?
Yeah.
oh, they've got that rad banner of her.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
So,
someone's still doing good art in the wasteland.
so it's like, where did that come from? How did she build that up? She's got basically this cult around her.
Yeah, and she's people consider her like a ruler of the wasteland.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I think she is made up to look somewhat older, right?
Maybe a
Like
little bit.
a little bit older. she's. I mean, we're all going to look a bit older. 10 years in the wasteland, probably ages you
Yeah.
30. So yes, clearly she's been around and doing enough to get worshipped, right?
Yeah.
So she must have been unfrozen for a while.
Plus, I'm not being funny, but there's always potential that these characters could come back. You never really know, do you? Particularly in a universe where there are serums that can cause your foot that's hanging off to come back on, or you could become a ghoul, or whatever.
Well, let's get on to that, because
Okay.
that's our next thing, which
Yep.
is the snake oil salesman's elixir / the serum. What's going on there?
Well, there's two options. It's some sort of new chem that turns people into ghouls. That's how it's presented, at least in the
That's
show.
what we thought, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously he heals up. He has this mystery elixir, and then almost the next scene he's in, he gets an arrow through his throat, and he's like,
and Maximum is
I'm
like,
fine.
you're a ghoul.
Yeah, and he should know,
And
right?
yeah, he's like,
So
the Brotherhood are going to
we know
hunt
all about
you down.
ghouls.
There's a few things against that, I think.
Yeah.
Like, Lucy has that Geiger counter. If he were a ghoul, I think he would be setting off a Geiger counter, because they do produce radiation, and he isn't.
Yep.
Unless they
Wait,
just didn't
does
show
she
up.
use the counter on?
No, but it's like, it's always, if you play Fallout, anytime you go near
Yes.
a
So
it should
radiation
be going
source,
like-
it clicks.
Maybe.
It doesn't do
Also,
that when she's near Walton Goggins.
If it's like alpha radiation rather than gamma radiation, maybe it's
Oh,
all
boy.
internal and it's not breaking through the skin at the moment.
That's
and
so
all
much
that stuff.
science. Yeah.
But I feel like there's that possibility. There's also like a mysterious serum in Fallout 4 apparently, which is like provides immortality, and that's like there's a whole mission.
Immortality?
Yeah. It's the
It's not the Vault 81 cure.
No, I'll look it up for you. Hold on.
Well, I tell you, okay, do you remember Hancock from Fallout 4? The ghoul, John Hancock, in the
Yes.
Tricorn
Yeah.
Okay,
companion
yeah.
character.
Yep.
He became a ghoul by taking a drug. There was like a new radioactive drug
Right.
that turned him into a ghoul rather than being exposed to
Sort of like radium face cream.
Yeah, it was some. I think it was some sort of like high radiation dose chem that gave him an incredible high, but also ghoulified him. So it's possible that Thaddeus is in the early stages of that.
Yeah.
Like, what would be interesting is if you remember, like Harold from Fallout 3, the guy with a tree growing out of him. He looks a lot like a ghoul, but he was turned into that by the forced evolutionary virus.
Yes, yeah.
So if they're trying to bring that into the series,
And it's such a key part of the lore, the FEV.
yeah. So that might be an interesting way of introducing it. It's like this guy has somehow got a hold of some experimental.
It does
batch
raise
of-
the question how
of
this
FEV.
like weirdo traveling salesman has got this like,
Yeah.
very precious, very rare.
But it could be he like
virus.
hijacked a traveling
I
caravan
guess
and
so.
transporting it or something. But
mean-
if you want to introduce super mutants into the lore,
Yeah.
maybe like I think next season Thaddeus is either going to become a ghoul or possibly start to become a super mutant,
Which would be interesting, yeah.
Okay.
interesting, especially because the Brotherhood is so opposed to super
Yeah.
mutants and ghouls.
My first thought was because like the traveling salesman snake oil guy like is obviously extremely sketchy and dubious.
Yeah.
I was like, what if it's just ghoul juice? What if
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like blood
A bit
out
of blood
a
from a ghoul, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I'd probably do it.
I mean, that would do it. I mean, that's less like exciting as a
I mean,
plot element.
it tastes disgusting, doesn't it? Like, that's one of the things.
He says the
you know,
taste
he's
is
like,
horrible,
yeah,
which you would expect.
And he recoils, yeah. And if you'd been, wringing out a ghoul
Yeah.
into a vial of something, then it
I
would
really
taste
just thought
disgusting.
he'd given him like a massive dose of some sort of mad like hallucinogen because
Right.
when you see his foot like knit itself back together, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a miraculous drug.
Yeah.
Could it not just be that Thaddeus is off his face and like it's the power of suggestion, right? When the
Yeah.
snake oil guy goes, look at that, and he's like, whoa, yeah, look at my foot, and then you cut to like the real view, and his
Yeah.
foot is just clean fallen off or something.
But then he is mobile later
No,
on,
obviously,
yeah.
obviously I was wrong, but that was my first thought because I'm like,
Hmm.
there's nothing. I mean, there's. I was going to say there's nothing in Fallout that does that, but obviously there is. But
Never,
it's not
never make a statement like that
Yeah.
about Fallout.
Yeah.
nothing like that in Fallout that does anything like that. But
I wonder whether
Curious.
they'll play it with a fairly straight bat and he'll just turn into a ghoul. Like that's sort of what they've set up happening. Like I know there's a lot of theories about why that wouldn't be the case, but like it like
simplest
the simplest thing is
way
that
to
he
go
becomes
is-
a ghoul and we get to see his nose fall off
Yeah.
at some point in season
Yeah.
2.
which I think would be fun. You've got like the advanced ghoul, the
Yeah.
ghoul, and then you've got like an up and coming ghoul,
Yeah.
and you get to see the process of ghoulification, which would be kind of.
and it's like a funny version
interesting.
of like David Cronenberg's The
Yeah.
Fly, where bits
Yeah.
of him are just dropping off, and he's like, oh, because he's quite a like
He's
comedy
a funny character.
Yeah.
Thaddeus is fun and
Yeah.
funny, and I would like to see that and
Yeah.
see his nose fall off. So it
I'd
could
like
just
that
be
for him.
Yeah, so we think maybe the snake oil elixir is just something that causes ghoulification. They do make a point of like showing how Cooper Howard, the ghoul, like just gets shot all the time and is absolutely fine. Like you can do whatever you like, and so they've established that. I mean,
Yeah,
we
I mean,
already
you
knew that
can
ghouls are,
obviously
like-
kill ghouls by shooting them in the head.
Yeah, but they are quite.
They are healed by radiation as well.
Yeah, they're somewhat invulnerable and healed by radiation, and the fact that he gets like a arrow through his throat and is basically okay, that is consistent with like.
I think that'd be
Being a
cool.
ghoul.
I'm holding out hope for the super
Mutant
mutant
theory,
thing.
yeah,
I think that would be really interesting and cool. And
Okay.
they haven't had super mutants in it yet, so.
Well, that does bring us to our next mystery, which is less a mystery and more just like a.
Can we have this, please?
Can we have this, please, Todd Howard?
Yep.
And that is where were the super mutants?
Yeah.
Where are the glowing? What
I
are they
forget
called?
which-
Glowing feral
glowing
ghouls.
ones.
Yeah,
The
glowing ones. Yeah.
I forget which vault it is, but it's in Fallout 3. The
Yeah.
vault, which was that's where they were doing the super mutant experiments.
Yes,
and that's
That's where you
out
meet
in-
Forks, right?
Yeah, but that's out in like the capital, Washington D.C. area. So
But there are super mutants in New Vegas as well. Like they are a breed that exists
yeah, and
outside of.
Nightkin as well, which is a whole
Indeed,
different
yeah.
thing.
I mean, I think the answer is probably just that they wanted to hold on to something like spicy for the
Yeah.
next season, like something new and
Got the
exciting.
Deathclaw skull.
Deathclaw,
Yeah, Deathclaws are being
right.
held off, aren't they? Yeah.
And like you made the point that the main monster of the season was like quite an obscure
Yeah, it's
Gulper.
Creature.
from the Point Lookout DLC.
from a
for
DLC.
Fallout
Yeah.
4.
But it's cool, isn't it? With all the little fingers in the
Oh, it's so
It's
nasty.
an awesome, horrible
With the-
thing to look at.
It made me think of Annihilation. You know the movie Annihilation,
yeah.
where like it's kind
That
of
weird melding of like.
different
biology.
things
Yeah.
spliced together.
Horrible.
It was horrible, and like the effects were really good on the Gulper. hated that.
All right, what do we got next? What does cold fusion mean for the wasteland?
Yeah.
Dang, all right.
Like,
Well, there's
In-
now a whole city that is powered by
Yeah.
cold fusion.
No more fusion cores. I
They
guess.
talk it up for so much of the show. They're like, this could
change everything.
change everything.
I'm not saying that like free infinite energy is like a bad thing
No.
or not an important thing, but is it actually? I mean, it's not going to fix.
Not when you
a
can run a
broken
whole vault on a single
civilization.
fusion core.
Yeah, also, I don't know if you built a settlement in Fallout 4, but I've just got about 60 generators just running away in the
Yeah.
background, powering all the lights and stuff. It's not a problem.
I guess they couldn't have made the piece of technology they were chasing like something that is actually going
Project
to heal
Purity.
the world.
Yeah.
Because then that's the end of the show.
yeah, you solve your apocalypse right there, don't you?
But yeah, what does cold fusion like? Actually, what does it change? Maybe not as much as you might think, because they
Yeah.
don't want to resolve the issue of humanity being on the brink, because they want to make a TV show that carries on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a tricky one. I mean, it was treated even in the final episode as something quite significant. You know, you get your long
Yeah.
lingering shot of the
Yeah.
process happening.
But
and
you
stuff
don't see
like
it then like chung, 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 lighting
No.
up like cities across the United
No,
States.
it
or-
seems like just one city.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you see Carl McLachlan stomping towards New Vegas, which is lit up like Las Vegas. So, you know,
Yeah.
So what are they using?
so it's
Yeah.
not. It's just a different way of getting power that they already
Yeah.
seem to have enough of.
Given that the scientist implanted it like here, I assumed it was some kind of brain control chip or some kind of
Yeah.
cybernetic thing or whatever. Why did he have to put it in his neck?
Yeah, it's just
Just
seems
a way
to
of
be
him
like,
to smuggle it out.
Put it in your pocket.
but it's a good way to get your neck cut open.
Yeah.
It seems to me.
Yeah, he sort of went OTT. He's like, I'll just take it. I'll be slowing you down. I'm just going to take a cyanide pill. You're like, you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
If he'd implanted it in his hand,
Yeah.
he'd just cut off his hand or something.
Yeah.
Dig it out of his neck.
Folks, I'm
maybe.
going to smuggle it out, so I put it in my. So wait, you didn't have to do that.
I'll chop it off.
No, no.
I'll make the sacrifice.
No.
Why?
Is this a thing, sir?
Put it in dog meat or something.
Oh.
Oh, what do I mean?
Oh, yeah,
Loves
maybe
dog meat.
don't do that. Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like it's not really gonna.
What the
Okay, he didn't cover his ears.
Cover his poor little ears.
He doesn't have to hear this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't really seem like it would change much about society as it is currently.
Do you think it was just a bit of a MacGuffin just to
Or I mean,
drive
it's
things along?
it's Moldaver's technology, isn't it? Maybe she just wanted it.
Just like, I want my cold fusion.
I want my cold fusion back.
It made me think of, the thing about Last of Us when everyone's looking for a cure.
Yes.
And you're like, you come to realise that even if they found a cure, they'd have to like mass manufacture a cure, they'd have
Yeah.
to distribute a cure. And also like the reason like everyone's killing everyone, is not going to stop necessarily just because people have not a cure, an inoculation or
Yeah.
vaccination or
Well, I
whatever. And it's like, I feel like cold fusion's a bit like that. Like, you
they
need
tr-
the infrastructure to distribute it. You need to convince people to stop killing everyone.
Yeah,
Is it
I think
going to
maybe
change things?
for Moldaver it was like symbolic because she created a means to stop this resource war that was happening.
Right.
And Voltec buried it, but now she's released it, and so it's
Yeah.
out there. And
Yeah.
she's like, well, now it can never happen again because everyone has clean, abundant energy.
Yeah.
So
But it's gonna be a long time to rebuild to the point where that even matters.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're right. For the character of Moldova, yeah, it's extremely meaningful that like this could all have been avoided. Well, I don't know if it could have been avoided, but certainly this is what Voltec feared the most because it would have, loosened their stranglehold on literally everything.
all right, the next question that I think Jane has added here is:
Yes.
are they going to sustain the romance?
Are they going to have Lucy and Maximus carry this on? Because
Not feeling
I
it.
don't know.
Not feeling it.
It's not
it.
convincing, is it? Like, there's no real sense that they're building any kind of chemistry, really. And then they just kiss for some reason. But then, to be honest, she's quite casual about the whole thing. Like, when she's just like, shall we have sex? And he's like,
But I
And then he
think
says the worst thing.
yeah, and he says the worst thing I've ever heard on television.
that we will not be repeating.
But, like,
Wait, how do you fall for someone who
Yeah.
has said that?
How
to
do you
you?
ever have sex again
you.
after hearing that?
But I mean, things are different in the wasteland.
But, she's been, like,
She's been related to most of the young men
Yeah.
that she's ever met.
she got married immediately to some rando she'd never met before. I feel like I wouldn't bother sustaining that like relationship. And haven't they just headed off in different directions anyway?
Yeah, so it might be a long distance thing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But he was willing to move into a vault for her. Although he actually did.
willing to
rewatching-
move into a vault after he spent a day in a vault eating caviar and a robot.
Yeah,
no,
that
exactly.
is
It's
true.
like-
I think
That's
I'd be
true.
willing to make
But
that sacrifice.
initially,
as well.
I was like, but doesn't he isn't he longing to be a knight, part
I
of the
think what
Brotherhood of
he's
Steel?
longing for is security and safety.
I think you're right, because I went back and watched some episodes, and he is so like outfaced and horrified by like the first fight he has. Not the one where his knight dies, but the one where he's like stuck his armor in a car park.
Yes, yeah.
And like he not accidentally, but like sort of like smushes
Crushes that
someone's
guy's head,
and
yeah.
is like he's so horrified that maybe like just faced with the horrors of the wasteland, he's like, you know what, a vault actually sounds pretty good right now. Yeah. So I just wonder if that's something that's going to feature heavily or not. Maybe they'll go their separate ways and not actually spend that much time together. Is he going to go to New Vegas?
I think they'll all
They'll
Yeah,
all
they'll
end
end
up
up
in
in
New
in the
Vegas.
same way that they all ended
Okay.
up converging at various points during the plot. They'll
They all got to
probably
be in New
you know,
Vegas.
like
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I mean, you know, I think Lucy's heading that way, isn't she? With
Yeah.
Walton Goggins,
Yeah.
and he'll probably find some way to New Vegas as well.
Yeah.
But-
My toxic trait is lightly shipping Lucy and the Ghoul. I'm just saying.
and it's
It
super
could-
toxic, highly radioactive tape.
You want to
is
talk about
a
problematic
problematic
age gaps.
relationship.
Yeah.
But what isn't? So, yeah.
I
Anyway,
think
we'll
anything
see.
over 120 years is too much of an age gap. I think.
Also, he's radioactive and has no nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about what
And
else
did
he might
cut
not
her
have.
did
anything
cut her
of.
finger off at one point as well. So
Well, he
Yeah,
now
but he put
has
it on
her
himself.
finger, yeah.
well, that's very romantic then.
That
Now
is.
that I think about it.
yeah.
And she's got some random finger from a drawer somewhere.
She's got a
Yeah,
corpse
yeah.
finger. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay, next question.
Yeah.
And final question.
Final
indeed.
mystery.
What's going on in New Vegas in this version of the World of Fallout?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. House clearly is happening.
We don't know he's there. I mean, they showed him in
They
the...
introduced him in the
in the
final
meeting.
episode. That he's got to be there.
He will
surely.
probably.
And
He's
he-
such an important
Yeah.
part of New
You're
Vegas.
famous for your love of Fallout New Vegas. What was your reaction on seeing the?
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, the way I
Vegas
hollered
skyline?
when I,
This
when
is
I
it.
saw that skyline.
I was so excited for Andy, and I was the one who first finished the series, and I was
Yeah.
just desperate to hear about what Andy thought of
Yeah.
the final episode.
No, I was very excited to
It felt
see-
like a treat, especially
to
for
see
you.
that. So, yeah, I guess if they're going to hew close to the storyline of Fallout New Vegas, they introduced the NCR at the
Yep.
end of this season. Presumably, Caesar's Legion will also be
Yeah,
introduced.
I mean, this is not a show that shies away from like violence and stuff, but like Caesar's Legion do some pretty gross,
Pretty awful stuff, yeah. But those, you know, those are the main factions, right? You've got NCR, Caesar's Legion, and then Mr. House and his army of
Robots
killer
and stuff,
robots. Yeah. Which you can, of course, commandeer for yourself in the game. You go around the back and unplug Mr. House.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Kick the power cable
Yeah.
out.
That's the finale of season 2.
Yeah.
He's just going around the back and like.
yeah, just boop,
It would be-
unplug.
I would be well up for a situation where Thaddeus staggers into the room and accidentally trips over the power cable.
Aw.
No, you fool! You don't know what you've done.
If Ghoul Thaddeus becomes MVP of season 2,
It would be hilarious,
I'm
yeah.
here for that.
That'd be great. But yeah, the idea of Walton Goggins turning up in the desert with just an army of robots behind him. That was my
Pretty
favourite
cool.
moment in New Vegas, because that's obviously the path I chose, was
Yeah.
my own army of
Of
robots.
course.
And when they're basically, the NCR's like, oh yeah, you and whose army? And you're like, they all come over the hills. And you're like, well, these guys.
I think that's just based on how closely they've stuck to the lore and the setting and the tone and all that stuff. I feel like New Vegas is going to be a real love letter to the game, you know, and it's really interesting, you know, not to get too into the sort of relationship between Bethesda and Obsidian, who made New Vegas, but like legendarily, like it got 83 on Metacritic or something like that, and they didn't get their bonus.
Their bonus is triggered at 84.
Yeah, it was like something crazy like that. And so it's really interesting that it's going to become clearly such a key. That storytelling is going to become such a key part of the second season of this presumably pretty successful TV show.
Yeah, Todd should write them all a check.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Do it, Todd.
Yeah.
Do the right thing. I'm so excited for how it's going to look. Like, it's like
Yeah.
some really like iconic Fallout visuals,
Mm-hmm.
and they've done such a good job of visually realizing just the look, the
Yeah.
aesthetic of Fallout. Like
All the
Fallout New Vegas.
typefaces are
through that.
right and
Yeah, it's
everything.
going to look absolutely spectacular.
I think also what I'm sort of hopeful for season 2 is like, do you remember watching the first series of Game of Thrones and how like
Vaguely.
sort of like conservative it was in terms of sets and settings and CG and things like that, and then the first season was enormously popular, and the second season
They're
all
like,
of a sudden
money,
yeah,
throw
it's like the
money
Red
at it.
Keep
Yeah,
looks
yeah, yeah.
amazing and all this
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, Battle of Blackwater Bay. I'm hoping that like they've tested the water with Fallout. Video game stuff isn't always guaranteed to go over well in like other mediums. But it seems like everyone's watching this and everyone's enjoying it. And I don't know if it's just because we're in a sort of video gaming echo chamber, but I think it's starting to reach out.
It's because not enough people have watched Justified, and they aren't aware of how cool it is
Right.
to have Walton Goggins as a
Cowboying around, yeah.
loquacious bad guy gunslinger.
Okay.
So
Are you saying people who...
I'm saying he's basically playing the same character.
If you finished Fallout and you need some more Walton Goggins, then now's the time to rediscover...
Get into Justified.
Justified,
Gotta
yeah.
get into it. Any other questions that people had that they want to bring up at the end? I have one. Okay, Moldava.
Yes.
Presumably, Hank knows all the people in Vault 31. Moldava comes in claiming to be the overseer of Vault 32,
Right.
who would presumably have been a former resident of Vault 31, and Hank it obviously wouldn't recognize her. So why is he like, hey, yeah, you're from Vault 32, come on in?
Interesting. Yeah, it's a good point. I'd like to know more
Unless
about...
she was in Vault 31,
Yeah.
but then she needed Lucy's mum's Pip-Boy to get in, so she presumably didn't have her own, which means she wasn't.
Yeah,
Anyway.
defrosted later.
Yeah, that's a question I had. I'm like, she came in saying she was an overseer. We later find out all the overseers of these two vaults come from that Vault 31.
Yeah.
So that was just a question I had. Why was that?
Yeah, I guess another question I have is about like Hank's character, who we don't get to see a lot of. He's kind of in there in
Literally
the first episode
and bookends the
final
series.
episode.
Yeah.
How do you go from a guy who is ostensibly like seems to be like a caring father, nice guy, but how do you go from that to someone who also like is after the conflict is all over and the apocalypse has already happened, nukes a perfectly sort of functioning, like one of the a functioning bastion of society and civilization. How does he end up nuking that, and how does he end up getting his hands on a nuke? When
That was my question. Where
Yeah.
does he get a nuke from? He's an overseer of a vault. Did they have like
unless it's a sort of megaton situation where there was like a nuke sitting in the middle of the town.
Sure.
But I would
What
be
about one
surprised
of
if
those
they do that
little
again.
the launchers with the mini?
Fat Man.
Oh, Fat Man.
Yeah. What if he?
I don't know if
I
you
mean,
could blow
I
up
don't
an
know if-
entire town with one of those.
I don't know. You ever shot a car in a Fallout game?
Yeah,
Let's go,
true,
up,
yeah.
let's go up in a mushroom
Yeah.
cloud. Like,
Yeah, it may have been there's some big nuclear reactor or something, but it just it's really interesting. I want to know more about his character because at the moment he seems like quite a contradiction.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely.
Now, there's nothing to say he wasn't a controlling like bad father who appeared nice or all these things, but it just seems like at the moment all we've got are these two glimpses of the character who seem almost diametrically opposed. So I want to know
It's
more.
quite chilling when he says she stopped being your mother when she took you.
when she left the vault.
Yeah, when she put you in harm's way or something. That does feel like a very like controlling character who, like you say, could seem like perfectly nice, very Vault-Tec, very smiley and friendly until something doesn't go his way.
It's also part of that Vault-Tec mindset where you're better and more special than the rest of society.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we're in charge. We're the kind of Eloi of this society. And anyone who tries to cross us or these people, he probably doesn't imagine that these wastelanders are actually people. You know, they're just rats scrabbling around in the rubble.
Yeah.
So I imagine that's how he justifies it to himself.
But yeah, it's even fairly extreme though to go from you're married to this woman and you've got a daughter and a son to I'm prepared to blow her up and everyone around her because she left the vault.
It's the Vault-Tec mindset, isn't it? It's like you're waiting for Reclamation Day, which is when the Vault dwellers will return to rebuild society.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, these guys have actually rebuilt society already. And like, no,
Not
that's
on
not
my
the plan. That's not the
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
You haven't. Okay, let's just nuke
yeah.
that, get that out of here,
Yeah.
and finally we can do Reclamation Day again
Yeah.
because we can rebuild society.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, just based on the little bit you see where he's younger, he could conceivably be a sort of Vault-Tec true believer who's got an almost like religious sort of fervor for the Vault-Tec ideology.
I do like the idea of like the glorious idea of Reclamation Day, then seeing that it's already happened without you, and then being like, no.
Reset.
I like that.
Reset.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
Vault-Tec.
But yeah, I mean, it feels like we're going to get a lot more Hank in.
I hope so. I don't know why you would
season two.
cast Carl McLachlan and not use him. So,
Yeah, maybe he's very expensive.
Yeah, it's true.
But him stomping off in some power armor towards New Vegas. I mean, that's the inciting sort of incident that is going to kick off the second season. And so hopefully he'll be. I mean, he may be the antagonist. He may be the antagonist of the second season.
Why didn't the Ghoul shoot Maximus in the faulty plate on his power armor in their first fight?
Well, if he knows, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he was using armor-piercing rounds.
Maybe his
you know,
bats broke.
Final. Yeah, maybe he was out of action points.
Yeah. Maybe his percentage was just too low.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he was suffering from jet addiction.
Yeah. There's a small drop in a very big bucket of drugs.
All right, so those were the questions we had after finishing the first season of Fallout. Did you have any questions? That
Put
you
them in
want
the
answered?
comments.
Let us know in the comments so we can look at them and consider them ourselves. Thank you for watching. If you want more Fallout stuff, we've got some videos on screen by now you can click on, check those out, and we will see you next time for more Fallout.
Bye.